The man of thought sat alone, shrouded in the comforting darkness of his study. The room was his sanctuary, a place where the outside world ceased to exist, and only the whispers of his mind held sway. A single flickering candle cast long dancing shadows across the book-lined walls. The light was feeble, but it was enough to illuminate the pages of the ancient tomes that surrounded him, each one a repository of knowledge and secrets. He wasn't lonely, not really. His mind buzzed, a hive of thoughts, ideas, and unsettling realizations. The solitude was a fertile ground for his intellect, a place where he could explore the depths of his consciousness without interruption. He knew something most people didn't. Becoming smart wasn't some Herculean feat. It wasn't about being born with a superior intellect or having access to exclusive knowledge. It was about seeing the world differently, understanding the patterns that others missed. It was a simple trick, a game played on a tilted board. The pieces moved in predictable ways, and once you understood the rules, you could manipulate them to your advantage. He saw life as a grand chess game, each move calculated, each outcome anticipated. He chuckled, a dry, brittle sound. The world was so easily deceived, so quick to attribute genius to what was merely a deeper understanding of the obvious. He found it amusing, the way people marveled at what they didn't understand. The world worshipped at the altar of genius, blind to the mundane levers and pulleys behind the curtain. They saw the spectacle, the dazzling display of intellect, but they never questioned the mechanisms that made it possible. They marveled at the dazzling light show, oblivious to the man behind it all, calmly flipping switches. He knew better. He understood that intelligence was not about inherent brilliance, but about mastering the tools of thought. Intelligence, he'd learned, wasn't about inherent brilliance. It was about the ability to see connections, to understand the underlying principles that governed the world. It was about curiosity, the relentless pursuit of knowledge, and the willingness to question everything. It was about understanding the simple mechanics of thought. The mind was a machine, and like any machine, it could be understood, dissected, and improved. He spent years studying the workings of his own mind, refining his thought processes, and honing his intellectual abilities. He picked up a well-worn notebook, its pages filled with scribbled notes and diagrams. Each page was a testament to his journey, a record of his discoveries and insights. The notebook was his most prized possession, a tangible representation of his intellectual legacy. Years of observation, of dissecting the human mind, had led him to this truth. He had spent countless hours analyzing his thoughts, breaking them down into their component parts, and understanding how they fit together. It was a painstaking process, but it had given him a profound understanding of the human condition. And he was going to share it, not to enlighten, but to amuse himself, to watch the world squirm at the realization of its own naivete. He reveled in the thought of exposing the simplicity behind the facade of genius, of showing people that the emperor had no clothes. "Let the games begin," he whispered, a predatory gleam in his eyes. He was ready to unveil the truth, to pull back the curtain and reveal the man behind the illusion. It was a game to him, a way to test the limits of his own intellect and to see how the world would react to the revelation. The first rule: discard the notion that intelligence is some mystical quality bestowed upon a select few. Intelligence is not an exclusive club that only a handful of people can join. It's not a magical gift that some are born with while others are left in the dark. It's a skill like playing the piano or juggling chainsaws, difficult to master perhaps, but not impossible. Just as anyone can learn to play a musical instrument with enough practice and dedication, anyone can develop their intellectual abilities. It requires effort, patience, and a willingness to make mistakes and learn from them. The man of thought scoffed. People love to complicate things, to shroud themselves in layers of perceived intellectual inferiority. They would rather believe that intelligence is an unattainable peak, a mountain too high to climb, than put in the work to reach it. He recalled a colleague, a man who prided himself on his vast vocabulary, using obscure words like a shield to deflect any hint of intellectual insecurity. This colleague would often speak in a manner so convoluted that it left others feeling inadequate, as if they were missing some secret code. One day, the man of thoughts casually dissected one of his colleagues' convoluted arguments, using simple, direct language. He stripped away the unnecessary jargon and got to the heart of the matter, revealing the argument for what it truly was, overcomplicated and flawed. The look on the man's face, a mixture of anger and bewildered vulnerability, was almost too delicious. It was as if a veil had been lifted, exposing the truth that had been hidden beneath layers of pretentiousness. The truth was, true intelligence often manifested in simplicity, in the ability to distill complex ideas into digestible nuggets of wisdom. It wasn't about showing off or making others feel small. It was about making knowledge accessible to everyone. It was about clarity, not obfuscation. The real challenge lay in taking something intricate and making it understandable, in breaking down barriers rather than building them up. True intelligence was a bridge, not a wall. The man of thoughts tapped his pen against the notebook, lost in a sea of ideas and questions, curiosity. That was the spark, the engine that drove true intelligence. It ignited the mind, setting it ablaze with a desire to know more, to understand the unknown, like a child pulling apart a clock to see how it worked. A curious mind never stopped questioning, dissecting, and analyzing. Every piece, every gear, every tiny component held a secret waiting to be uncovered. He remembered watching a young boy at the park, utterly absorbed in the intricate dance of ants around an overturned ice cream cone. The boy's eyes followed the ants' every move, fascinated by their tiny world. The boy, oblivious to the world, was a study in focused curiosity, his mind soaking up information, making connections. He was learning about teamwork, about survival, about the delicate balance of nature. But curiosity without observation was like a car without an engine, all potential, no power. It was the careful observation that turned curiosity into knowledge, into understanding. To truly learn, one had to observe, to pay attention to the world and its intricate details. It was about seeing beyond the obvious, noticing the small things that others overlooked. It was about seeing the patterns, the subtle cues that others missed. The way leaves turned towards the sun, the way shadows shifted with the time of day, the way life unfolded in a million tiny ways. It was about becoming a student of life, always watching, always learning. Every moment, every interaction, every experience was a lesson waiting to be learned. The world was a classroom, and curiosity and observation were the keys to unlocking its secrets. The man of thoughts believed that the human brain was, at its core, a pattern recognition machine. From the moment we were born, our brains were bombarded with information, constantly searching for order in the chaos. He smiled, remembering a time he'd predicted a business rival's next move simply by observing his past behavior. The man was a creature of habit, his decisions following a predictable pattern. Intelligence in this context was about recognizing these patterns, understanding the underlying systems that governed behavior, both human and otherwise. It was about connecting the dots, seeing the forest for the trees. And once you understood the patterns, you could manipulate them, bend them to your will.